Panic selling of BYD is going on right now. Why? Because people think they're speculating that Warren Buffett has sold his stake. If he did, then wow, he made a massive profit. If he didn't, well, good opportunity for people to take advantage of others' fear. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. About a year ago now, I advised all of you, I didn't know at the time that this was illegal in Australia. Naive me. I advised people many times after making numerous videos about BYD to buy BYD shares, which was difficult. But fortunately, it became an option here in Australia and in many other countries thanks to Stake, the app that I used to buy BYD shares and that I just used to buy BYD shares exactly 2 minutes ago. Like right a second before making this video, I bought BYD shares because buy the dip. That's what I do anyway. So if you want to use Stake, if you want to buy BYD shares, if you want to buy CATL shares, by the way, you can't unless you're a Chinese citizen, unless you buy an index traded fund and then you can get like 10% max of that fund. There's a couple of them like BAT, LIT, those kind of funds. Anyhow, getting back to BYD, if you want to buy BYD shares, I'll put a link in the description below to my code. If you use that code when you create a US account, not an Australian account for the ASX, but a US account, then you'll get a free stock. So make sure you use that code if you're going to invest in BYD. Now, I can't advise Australians to invest in BYD, but I can tell you that I just did. And I can tell everyone else outside of Australia, go for it, baby. Go for it. Buy the dip. Now, that's what I recommend. But remember, this is not about gambling. Please don't message me, email me and say, I bought BYD stocks and I just sold a week later. Or this is a 10-year minimum investment. Don't gamble. If you're going to buy and sell, you're being a day trader. That's gambling and that's not a good idea. That's how other people make money from you. But anyway, let's get to the story. Let's see if there's any real merit to this story. Over the past few days, there's been growing speculation that Warren Buffett has sold, in fact, dumped his shares in BYD for what would be an astronomical profit. This has been one of Warren Buffett's best investment decisions ever. Absolute genius that he got in when he did. But to be fair, it wasn't really him. He was advised by someone else. And I made a video about how that all came to be, how that came to play. I'll put a link in the description below to that video that I made. I think that was about a year ago that I made that video talking about how that actually happened. And it was through his partner, Charlie Munger's, one of his friends, the guy who actually started Himalayan Capital. Now, speculation began after a stake close to the size of Berkshire's appeared in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange clearing system. All of the stake came from accounts from Citigroup, which, according to the Financial Times, is where the conglomerate holds its interest in BYD. It's been reported that a total of 225 million shares registered with Citigroup were listed for sale, closely matching Berkshire's stake. So, I mean, people just put two and two together and assume that this was Berkshire selling or dumping their shares. Berkshire first bought a stake in BYD back in 2008, paying around $232 million US at the time. According to Buffett's latest annual letter to investors, this position was now worth $7.7 billion. And that was at the beginning of the year. It's closer to $9 billion now, I believe. That would mean if he did sell his shares, he potentially made a profit of $8.8 billion on this transaction. In what really, for a company the size of Berkshire Hathaway, it's a pretty small transaction. It was like a little game that they played here. You know, they just thought, well, we'll throw a bit of money their way and we'll see what happens. And, well, it paid off big time. Or did it? Have they really sold? Well, it's important to note that this is just market speculation right now. We don't have any evidence that Buffett has sold or that he even wants to sell. Now, this would require a major change in ownership, which includes a statement to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and there's been no such statement at this point. So the question is, if this is a trade from the Oracle of Omaha himself, why would he want to be selling his position all at once when it's such a large position? This is not normally what a company would do. They normally sell in chunks. dumping the stock all at once, well, that would initiate a crash, right? Decreasing the value of the price very significantly. That's not something that Berkshire Hathaway is really known to do. This deal would also trigger a significant capital gains charge, and it would rob Berkshire Hathaway shareholders of further profits from BYD, which is rapidly becoming one of the most important companies in the global electric vehicle and the battery market space. So why would Warren Buffett want to sell? Now, I can personally see a couple of reasons why Buffett might want to reduce his position. Not sell all of it, dump all of it at once, but reduce it. For a start, Berkshire Hathaway's investment in BYD was never really Buffett's position in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong, he wasn't sure about the business. That's the truth. And he was only convinced when his right-hand man, Charlie Munger, actually pressed the issue. And apparently he really pressed it. Now, Munger was highly impressed with the drive and the technological experience of BYD's founder, Wang Chanfu. Now, obviously, Berkshire has done incredibly well out of this position over the past decade. But if Buffett is becoming worried about the current economic situation in China, then, or if he has concerns about BYD's management, he might not want to hang on if he doesn't entirely believe in the company. Now, economic risk, in my view, is just one factor here. There's also the risk that the company could be overtaken by a competitor. BYD is the leader of the electric vehicle space today, but there is so much money being poured into the sector that it's really only going to be a matter of time before the industry becomes commoditized overly like the rest of the automotive sector. So what's Buffett said about this sort of thing in the past? Well, he said there's only two reasons why he would sell a company or sell a stock. The first, because the situation has changed or because a better opportunity has come along. If the situation has changed for economic or management reasons, that could be one of the reasons why he decided to sell BYD. Another reason could be the emergence of another opportunity that he thinks is better. That's very, very possible. Now, the stake that Berkshire own right now is actually owned through Berkshire Hathaway's energy sector, which is committed to spending tens of billions of dollars over the next few years, mostly through investing in its renewable energy infrastructure. Now, assuming that the position has increased in value since Buffett's last correspondence, the actual net worth now based on today's stock price, or the stock price right before it crashed, was actually 16 billion US dollars, not the figure I gave you before. That's an enormous sum even to a company like Berkshire Hathaway. Now, it could be the case that Warren B himself has found a better opportunity elsewhere. Very, very possible. Alternatively, perhaps he wishes to invest more money into the US market, his home market, that he probably understands a little bit better. Since Buffett has a lot of faith in the resilience of the US economy and in US businesses. And because he understands that market, that might be something that he would want to retreat to during turbulent economic times. Now, of course, this is just purely speculation at this stage. We'll have to wait and see if there is any further information on the stake, but actually there is. Perhaps he hasn't sold his position after all. In the opinion of a Chinese analyst, this concern is a misunderstanding of the trading rules of the Hong Kong stock market. So all of this could be just made up, right? Made up by people who interpreted the data in the wrong way. On the morning of July the 12th, data from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange's central clearing and settlement system showed that about 225 million shares of BYD were transferred to Citibank on July the 11th. Berkshire Hathaway bought 225 million shares of BYD in 2008. So there's a direct correlation between those numbers there, right? And the precise match of those figures sparked investor speculation that Buffett had reduced or just dumped his holdings, causing BYD's share price to plunge around, nearly 15% at the close of trading. Now, media in China are claiming that BYD's plunge was mainly the result of market misinterpretation of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange's trading rules. Apparently, this is coming from an unnamed analyst from Northeast Security, so someone who has a pretty good understanding of how the Hong Kong Stock Exchange market works and the ways to actually correctly interpret the data. Now, apparently there's been a change in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange rules where the physical shares need to be replaced with electronic shares, and this needed to be done through brokerage channels including Citi and Morgan Stanley, which all have a CCASS account said the analyst. In fact, the entity Warren Buffett uses to hold BYD shares has also been changed before. Until 2021, the entity was Mid-American Energy, a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway, which I talked about before. After that, it actually became Western Capital. On the 29th of September 2008, Berkshire Hathaway Energy, which owns 91.1% of Berkshire, spent $230 million US to buy these 225 million shares at Hong Kong $8 each. As of the 31st of March 2022, Western Capital Group LLC, which is 100% owned by Berkshire Hathaway Energy, was BYD's fourth largest shareholder with a 7.73% stake. After yesterday's speculation triggered a plunge in the stock price, BYD said that the major shareholders' reduction in its holdings required an equity declaration, and the Hong Kong Exchange's equity disclosure platform did not show information on the reduction. In addition to its Hong Kong traded share plunging, BYD's Shenzhen traded shares fell more than 7% at one point on Tuesday. It caused BYD's market cap to fall back under RMB 900 million. However, it's my interpretation of what's happened here that analysts in China believe it's more than likely that Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway haven't actually sold their shares. Now, we don't seem to know for certain, but it does seem more than likely that they haven't based on this latest information. But right now, this report is also purely speculation. So I don't know for certain whether he has or he hasn't. It's my gut feeling, though, that he hasn't. That's why I just bought more BYD shares. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.